All right, guys, tuning fork, very important topic from your Viva standpoint, also from your theory exam standpoint, and also from your MCQ standpoint. As an undergraduate, medical student writing postgraduate exams, you need to understand what this basic tuning fork is, and you'll be surprised there is so much to it. अब लगा इसमें क्या है? Tuning fork में बहुत सारे fundamental चीजें पूछे जाती हैं, which is important for you to know. First of all, what does a tuning fork do? Tuning fork, it basically generates a single frequency of sound. One single mono frequency of sound. First of all, you understand what frequency is. Frequency is basically the pitch. All right. So, for example, if I say low frequency sounds are like this, but slowly it becomes high frequency sounds are like this. So, the frequency is the pitch, not the volume. Volume is the amplitude, the vibration. And normally they have an inverse relationship. So, frequency is inversely proportional to amplitude or vibration, which basically means higher the frequency of the tuning fork, the lesser it will vibrate, and lesser the frequency of the tuning fork, the higher it will vibrate. And even in real life, you can see this. If you look for an opera singer, even you keep a glass close by, it will break it. But opera singer sound cannot be heard from outside the auditorium, right? Whereas a growl of a lion you can hear for 5 kilometers. What is the difference? Opera singer is singing at an extremely high frequency sound. As the sound becomes higher, like supersonic, like bats communicate. Bats communicate supersonic over 20,000 hertz. So then you can't hear it, they can hear it, right? So the frequency becomes higher and the distance that it travels is lesser. But lower frequency, like a lion's growl, you can hear for very, very long. Thunder you can hear for very, very far. Aeroplane takeoff you can hear for very, very far. If you go to a rock band, the bass, the drums, you will hear from far first. And you will hear the lead guitar and the singer only when you are closer. That is the physics between frequency and amplitude. So this is a tuning fork, and this generates a single frequency of sound when it is struck. That is its job. It has been given some names to the parts of it. These are called prongs. This bend is called shoulder. This is called as the base. Many times some student will say, I put the base of the tuning fork on the mastoid. Some old school examiner will be like, what? You don't even know what the base is? This is the base of the tuning fork. Then you'll be like, then what is this? Then English is a funny language. They've given this name foot piece. Foot piece. Alright, and this is the stem. पता नहीं इतना सारा नाम क्यों दिया हुआ है. Some old school examiners, mainly for Viva usage, they will ask you name the parts of the tuning fork if they are, lenient towards you. If they are not lenient towards you, they will ask, what is the tuning fork made up of? And if you don't know that answer, you may be, they may, say or give you some less marks. But if you know the answer, they will be very impressed, because I don't see any books mentioning that. There is an alloy called Elinvar. Elinvar, iron, nickel, chromium. An alloy of iron, nickel and chromium. If you say Elinvar, I am sure the examiner will be impressed. And if you will tell that iron 50%, nickel 36%, chromium 12%, their jaws will also drop. And if they ask you, but why, student, why Elinvar is used for tuning fork? And if you can tell the conceptual answer to that, usi samay pass, gold medal de do usko. Because why we use Elinvar, why we use iron, nickel and chromium for a tuning fork is because the job of the tuning fork is to give single frequency sound despite bahar ka environment kaisa bhi ho. Especially temperature changes a lot of properties of metal. Expansion, shrinkage, with cold temperature, hot temperature happens. The beauty of Elinvar is that the metallic elasticity does not change with temperature. This is the main reason why this alloy is used for tuning forks, also for certain springs of watches, because they cannot malfunction. They have to give, regardless of the temperature, the job that it is supposed to do. And this composition of iron, nickel and chromium ensures that how much ever the temperature variation from hot to cold happens, the metallic property, the elasticity will not change, which means it will generate the same frequency even in extreme winter or even in extreme summer or hot environments. And that's why Elinvar is used for things like tuning forks. Okay, so this is the what are the parts of it, and what is the alloy, and what is the composition, and what is the reason. Now, which tuning fork do we use in ENT? That is another question that they ask, and they ask you the reason. Kyun? Okay, so there are different frequencies of tuning forks that we use. We use 128 hertz, we use 256 hertz, we use 512 hertz, we use 1024 hertz, and we use 2048 hertz. We use 4096 hertz. So there are various frequencies that we use. Okay, in clinical healthcare, generally we use some of them. Now, these two, 128 and 256, are largely used in neurological assessment. Why? They are low frequency, so that means they have high vibration. And when we are checking for vibratory senses, proprioception, all of those things, you want to use a tuning fork that gives more stronger vibration so you can assess their neurological functions. But because it has much high vibrations, it gives a very low frequency which lasts for very less time. That is called, guys, tone decay. Tone decay. The tone decay is just 2 to 5 seconds. जब तक आप बोलोगे, can you tell me when the hearing stops? तब तक वो sound गया. You cannot do an optimum hearing assessment with 128 and 256 hertz. At the same time, if you use any of these higher frequencies, their vibrations are very, very low. Their tone decays are also not good. But the problem over here is they have something called as overtones. ये कैसे आ गया? Overtones. Because of its very high frequency, one tone over the one tone over one tone makes it very amplified. Overtone makes the sound very unclear to assess. All right. So we are left with this middle ground over here, 512 hertz. The 512 hertz has three benefits. One is that it is in the speech frequency. Our speech frequency is from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Okay. And 512 is in the most common speech frequency. Whatever sounds you hear, whatever I am talking, whatever you are hearing, this is in the 512 hertz is where most of the normal common sounds are heard. So it is good to assess that normal sound frequency rather than some rare sound frequency, right? So one of the reasons 512 hertz is it is in the average speech frequency. Okay, so one reason is, so the reasons for 512 is it is in the average speech frequency. Second one is it has optimum tone decay. Optimum tone decay. Not too long also, not too short also, not too much vibration also, not too short also, right? So around 15 to 20 seconds we need, right, to place on the mastoid. Then when you can't hear, place on here. So whatever to do some permutation combination between examiner, patient, you need 15, 20, 25 seconds for it to vibrate and give the sound. And 512 hertz gives you that optimum tone decay. And third is almost less or no overtones. So friends, if you are able to tell these three reasons of why 512 hertz is the most optimum for ENT hearing examinations, why 128 and 256 are better for neurological examinations, why these are not suitable for examination, what are the parts of the tuning fork, which is meaningless just for theoretical aspect, but what is it made up of? Elinvar, what is the composition and why is it made up of? So that there is the metallic elasticity does not change with temperatures and it generates the same single frequency sound despite the environmental changes. You have pretty much know everything that you need to know about a tuning fork. Couple of other things is when you are doing the tuning fork test, you can strike it either here in the elbow or you can take it on a rubber pad. Now, where do you place it, how far away from the ear is something that Viva examiners are pretty fond of asking. You have to keep it 2 centimeters from the tragus. This is the tragal cartilage, 2 centimeter away you have to keep the tuning fork, and the tuning fork should be placed facing the ear like this, not like this, because the vibratory sounds are generated from between the two tuning forks when you strike them. I have seen many students use it like this, and examiners will catch on that saying tuning fork we use karna nahi aata. So you have to, the struck tuning fork should be facing the ear like this, 2 centimeter away. This is all that you need to know about tuning forks, and I think you'll be able to reflect this in your vivas, in your theory exams, also in your MCQs. So guys, anything else you need to know, any other topic, let me know in the comment section. Signing out, Dr. Jagdish Chaturvedi.